My name is Eleanor Harris, 69 years old, retired county clerk from Franklin, Missouri. For 32 years, I stamped, filed, and witnessed every kind of legal document you can imagine, from marriage licenses to property deeds. I used to tell my trainees, a signature isn't just ink, it's a person's word made visible. Funny how, in the end, it was my own son who tried to take mine away. 3 months after my husband Walter passed, I had what the doctor called a small episode. Mild stroke, nothing permanent. Still, Peter insisted I check into the hospital for observation. "You just rest, Mom," he said. "I'll handle your mail, pay the utilities, get the paperwork caught up." I wanted to believe him. Peter was my only child, sharp, confident, the kind of man who wore expensive suits to Sunday lunch and talked about investments more than people. Walter used to worry about that. "He's too smooth," he'd say, the kind of man who signs before reading. When I came home 2 weeks later, the house felt different. My plants were gone. The mail pile was too neat. Even the smell, the faint lemon cleaner Walter hated, told me someone had been trying too hard to make things look untouched. The next morning, I opened the mailbox and found a notice of transfer from the county assessor's office, the same office I once ran. It listed my property under Parker Development Holdings LLC with Peter's name attached as managing partner. I froze. My signature was on the bottom, except it wasn't mine. The loops were wrong, the stroke too heavy. Whoever signed it had practiced, but not enough. My hands trembled, but my voice stayed calm when I called him. "Peter, when did I authorize a transfer of title?" He chuckled. "Mom, that was months ago, don't you remember? I told you about reorganizing assets for tax purposes." "No, you didn't." He sighed. "Let's not make this awkward. You've been through a lot. I'll handle it." I hung up slowly and stared at the paper again. I'd filed over 10,000 deeds in my life, and the one in my hand was forged. That night, I opened my late husband's filing cabinet, the one Peter never knew about, and found the original deed, still sealed in Walter's handwriting, untouched. The next morning, I drove straight to the county records office, the same one I'd retired from 5 years earlier. The young clerk at the counter smiled politely. "Good morning, ma'am. How can I help you today?" "I need to see the transfer record for 218 Maple Ridge Road," I said. She typed for a moment, then frowned. "You'll need authorization from the managing partner of Parker Development Holdings." "That property doesn't belong to any company," I replied, keeping my voice level. "It belongs to me." She hesitated, glancing toward the back office. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Harris, but according to the system, ownership was transferred on March 14th, signed by you." March 14th, the day I was lying in a hospital bed with an IV in my arm. "I'd like to see that signature," I said. The clerk looked uneasy. "We can't release a copy without the new owner's approval." Of course. I'd written those same words dozens of times to angry citizens who'd lost houses or marriages. It was surreal hearing them turned against me. I leaned closer. "Young lady, that signature isn't mine. Whoever processed it committed a felony." Her eyes widened. She excused herself and returned with her supervisor, a man I didn't recognize. He looked me over like I was a nuisance. "Mrs. Harris, we can't discuss private records. If you have concerns, hire an attorney." "I was this office," I said quietly, "and I know exactly what your screen shows. A digital transfer notarized by a man named Charles Benton. I trained Charles Benton 20 years ago, and he's been dead for 6. The man blinked. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." He suddenly looked pale. "Let me check something in the back." He disappeared down the hall, and I heard whispers. When he returned, he avoided eye contact. We'll look into it. But please don't spread unverified claims." "Unverified," I echoed. "I built this verification system." As I walked out of the building, my phone buzzed. A message from Peter. "Mom, stop calling around. You're embarrassing yourself. I'm handling it." I stopped on the courthouse steps and smiled to myself. He thought embarrassment was my biggest threat. That night, I received an anonymous text. "You're asking too many questions. Drop it. For your own good." By the third day, the polite silence between my son and me cracked. Peter showed up at my doorstep just after dinner, unannounced, as if checking in on a misbehaving employee. He stood in the doorway, expensive cologne, immaculate suit, iPad under his arm. Mom, we need to talk. I motioned toward the kitchen table. We do. He sat, eyes scanning the room like a realtor appraising square footage. I got a call from the clerk's office. Apparently, you made quite a scene. I asked to see my own deed, I said. If that's a scene, then so be it. He exhaled sharply. Mom, you're not listening. The transfer is done. It's a family trust now. All legal, all beneficial. You still live here. Nothing's changed. Except the name on the title, I said. He looked irritated. You wouldn't understand the tax implications. Try me. He paused, realizing the challenge. Then came the condescension I'd seen him use on waiters and employees. Mom, you're retired. You don't need to worry about the details. I'm streamlining things so your estate doesn't get tangled later. Streamlining, I repeated softly. That's what thieves call it when they take what isn't theirs. His jaw clenched. Thieves? Is that what you think of me? I don't think, I said. I read signatures. He slammed his hand on the table. You're overreacting. Everyone thinks you're losing it. You're 70, you just had a stroke, and now you're accusing your own son of crimes because you don't remember signing a paper? I stood slowly, deliberately. If I were losing my mind, Peter, I wouldn't remember where the cameras were. He froze. What cameras? The ones Walter installed after the burglary 5 years ago. The system you said was too old to bother fixing. He paled. You're bluffing. Maybe, I said, but bluffing doesn't leave timestamps. We stared at each other in silence, mother and son, clerk and forger. Finally he muttered, Don't make this ugly, Mom. It already is, I said. As he stormed out, a small flash drive fell from his folder. When I picked it up, I saw a label. Parker Holdings Transfers March. By morning, the neighborhood already knew something was wrong. Peter had posted a photo of us on Facebook, an old one from my retirement party, with a caption that read, Hard to see Mom struggling after her stroke, but we're doing everything we can to keep her comfortable and safe. #family first #health journey. There were hundreds of comments. Such a good son. She's lucky to have you, Peter. You're a blessing. And just like that, the narrative was written. The loyal son and the confused old woman. When I called my friend Doris to talk, she sounded cautious. Eleanor, sweetie, maybe Peter's just trying to help. After your health scare. I stared at the phone. Doris had been my best friend for 30 years, and even she didn't believe me. By noon, my credit card stopped working. The utility company said my automatic payments had been paused by the account manager. My cell plan, too. Every single number routed through a shared family plan under Parker Holdings, his company. I wasn't just locked out of my home on paper, I was being erased in real time. Then came the mail, a formal letter from a law firm downtown. Per your son's request as legal conservator, all major financial decisions will require dual approval until further notice. I felt the blood drain from my face. Conservator? That required a court filing, which meant he'd already petitioned a judge behind my back, claiming I was mentally unfit. When the phone rang, I almost didn't answer, but it was a familiar voice. Tom Weller, my husband's oldest friend and a notary for 40 years. Eleanor, he said softly, I heard about Peter's filing, but I also saw something else. Your name on a transfer document this week. The notary stamp looked wrong. You're telling me it's fake. I'm telling you it's not mine and it's supposed to be. I never signed off on your deed. Someone copied my seal. That confirmed it. The forgery wasn't just personal, it was systemic. Peter had gone all in. Tom, I said quietly, would you be willing to testify? There was a long pause. For Walter's memory, I'd walk into hell with you. That evening, a letter slipped under my door. No envelope, just 5 words typed in bold. Stop digging or lose everything. That night, I sat in my dark kitchen with the letter in one hand and my husband's old fountain pen in the other. The silence was thick, the kind that hums in your ears when you're the only one left awake. The refrigerator light glowed across the checkered floor. My wedding photo still hung on the wall, slightly crooked, just as Walter liked it. Only now, the man who'd called me his anchor was gone, and the son we'd raised had turned into the storm. Outside, the porch light flickered. I checked the fuse box, only to realize the power company had downgraded the service. Per account owner request. I wasn't the account owner anymore. I microwaved leftover soup, cold in the middle, and sat alone trying to swallow both it and the humiliation. No heat, no working card, no access to my own bills. He hadn't just stolen my name. He'd made sure I couldn't even prove who I was. My neighbor, Mrs. Langley, knocked around 9. "Honey, are you okay? Peter said you're having memory lapses. He's setting up a care aid." I smiled weakly. That's kind of him." She hesitated, unsure, then left with a sympathetic look that made me want to scream. When I closed the door, I leaned against it and let the tears come. Quiet, angry ones, the kind you don't show anyone. Then I remembered something. Walter's old file cabinet in the back room. We'd kept the key in the one place no one thought to look, taped under the drawer of his workbench. I found it after 10 minutes of searching. The cabinet groaned open, smelling of cedar and thyme. Inside were tax records, insurance papers, and a small black envelope labeled, "In case of dispute." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a USB drive and a single yellow sticky note in Walter's handwriting. "Trust no signature without the timestamp." I plugged it into my laptop. The video loaded immediately. Timestamped March 14th, the same day Peter claimed I signed the transfer. The footage showed my empty office, then Peter entering with a stranger carrying a notary stamp. The camera zoomed just enough to catch the man's face, Tom's old signature seal in his hand, and Peter whispering, "Hurry up before she wakes up." I replayed the video 5 times before I finally stopped shaking. Every frame felt like a knife. Peter, my own son, walking through my office like it was his empire, not his mother's home. He knew exactly where I kept my stamp pad, my file folders, even the drawer with Walter's estate documents. And that man with him, the fake notary, pressed Tom's stolen seal on a paper I couldn't see clearly. When Peter whispered, "Hurry up before she wakes up," my breath caught. He didn't just forge me, he rehearsed it. I sat back, the blue screen light washing over the kitchen like cold moonlight. For the first time since Walter's funeral, I didn't feel small. I felt furious. I'd spent my entire career protecting other people's records, making sure their marriages, homes, and legacies stayed intact. Now it was my turn. By morning, I had a plan scribbled across a notepad. 3 columns: proof, witness, and timing. Under proof, the USB video. The letter Tom signed confirming his stolen seal. The fake conservator filing Peter submitted while I was hospitalized. Under witness, Tom, my notary friend. The young clerk from the records office who saw the false transfer entry, and maybe Mia, my granddaughter, 22, sharp, studying journalism. She knew how to make things public. Under timing, the county office's quarterly audit, 3 days away. Peter's scheduled investor presentation for the new Parker Holdings estate trust. If I could align all 3, I could collapse his whole facade in 1 day. I called Tom first. "I have footage," I said. He exhaled hard. "Then we have leverage. Bring it tomorrow morning, quietly." Next, I called Mia. "Grandma?" she said sleepily. "It's 6 a.m. "I need your help," I told her, "but I need you to promise something. Whatever you see, you keep recording." Her voice sharpened. "Recording what?" "Your uncle," I said, "and how he buried his own mother in paperwork." As I hung up, my email pinged, a new message from an address I didn't recognize. Subject: "You don't know who you're up against." Attachment: a single photo, me sleeping in my hospital bed. That photo, me asleep in a hospital bed, my hair tangled, my arm hooked to an IV, sat on the screen like a threat. Someone had been inside my room. Someone Peter paid. I didn't delete it. I printed it instead. Evidence. Every threat is proof if you treat it like one. That morning, I dressed deliberately. Gray wool coat, notebook in hand, and Walter's wedding ring on a chain around my neck. My armor. I drove to the courthouse in silence, rehearsing my lines the way I used to before disciplinary hearings at the bank. Step 1, secure my legal footing. Step 2, plant the trap. Step 3, make it public at the exact moment he can't control the narrative. At the clerk's office, I met Tom in the back hallway near the file storage. He handed me a sealed envelope. "This is my sworn affidavit," he said. "Confirms my notary stamp was stolen, forged, and misused." I slid him the USB. "And this," I whispered, "is the footage that matches the forgery." He nodded. "You're going after him, aren't you?" "I'm not going after him," I said. "I'm reclaiming what's mine." By noon, I'd filed a motion for injunction, freezing any transfer or sale tied to my property until the court verified the document's authenticity. The clerk gave me a copy stamped with the seal I trusted more than my own son's signature. Then I called Mia. "Did you get the copy of the video I sent?" "Already uploading it to a private drive," she said. "What's the plan, Grandma?" I told her about Peter's investor event that Friday, how he'd invited half the county's real estate board to celebrate the launch of Parker Heritage Estates. "That's where we'll show them," I said. "Not in court, not in private, in the room he built his lies." Mia whistled softly. "You're not just fighting back, you're going cinematic." I smiled. He forgot who taught him presentation day. That night, as I finalized my statement, headlights swept across my driveway. A knock followed. When I opened the door, Peter stood there holding my house keys, smiling like nothing had happened. "Mom," he said, voice calm and rehearsed, "we need to talk before you make a mistake you can't undo." Peter stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. His smile was wrong, too polished, too calm, like a salesman who's already closed the deal. "Mom," he said, setting my keys on the table, "you've been confused lately. People are worried. You filed something at the courthouse this morning. I can make that go away before it gets embarrassing." "Embarrassing for who?" I asked. "For you," he said smoothly. "You don't understand the paperwork. The deed transfer was for protection. You're 72, you had a stroke, and you're not thinking clearly. Let me handle things." He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a folded document, and placed it on the counter. "I bought out your medical insurance policy," he added. "If anything happens to you, it's covered. I'm taking care of you." My pulse slowed, not from fear, but from the recognition of something familiar, the ledger voice, the tone Walter used to catch a fraud during audits. He was lying, and he knew I knew. I turned toward the cabinet and pulled out a small black folder. Inside was my new power of attorney, filed that morning, naming me as sole executor again, and another paper, a purchase receipt from the county's digital registry. "Funny thing, Peter," I said, sliding it toward him. "I bought back the original deed this morning, directly from the county archive. Turns out Mom's still capable of online banking." His expression cracked for the first time. You can't just—" "Oh, I can," I said. "The title was never legally verified. Your forged document's been flagged and frozen. The moment you moved my assets, it triggered an audit." He went pale. I reached into my pocket and set the USB drive beside the folder. "Here's something else. A copy of your little forgery, the one you did while I was unconscious, time-stamped, with audio." He stepped back, jaw tightening. "You're bluffing." "Then call my bluff," I said, "because tomorrow, during your big investor event, this video plays on the main screen, and every person who ever trusted you will see what you did to your own mother." Peter's mask shattered completely. He slammed his hand on the counter. "If you show that, you'll destroy everything I built." I leaned forward, voice low but steady. "No, Peter, you destroyed it the moment you forgot who built you." Friday came cold and sharp, the kind of morning where breath turns to frost before it leaves your lips. Mia drove us downtown in her small blue Honda, laptop on her knees, video file queued. She'd been quiet the whole ride until we reached the resort. "You sure about this, Grandma? Once it's out, there's no taking it back." I looked at her, steady. "That's the point, sweetheart. The truth doesn't need rewinds." The ballroom was decked out in gold banners reading Parker Heritage Estates, investing in family legacy. How fitting. Peter stood center stage, wearing a navy suit and that camera-ready grin that used to charm scholarship committees and school principals. "Good afternoon, everyone," he said, voice amplified across the hall. "Today we celebrate growth, partnership, and integrity." I almost laughed. Integrity. He'd stolen that word from me, too. Mia and I slipped in through the side entrance. I took a seat near the back while she connected her laptop to the projector's control feed. She'd arranged it with the AV technician earlier, under the pretense of testing a short investor highlight reel. At exactly 2:15 p.m., just as Peter began thanking our family values, the screen flickered. Then the video began. The footage opened on Peter's face, grainy but unmistakable, standing in my office with Tom's notary seal. Then came his voice. "Hurry up before she wakes up." Gasps rippled across the room. One investor turned to another. The hotel manager froze by the exit. Peter's microphone squealed as he lunged for the laptop. "This isn't real. Someone hacked." But the video kept playing. The forged signature, the date stamp, and his words. "She'll never know until I sell it." Silence, then whispers, then phones coming up to record. I stood slowly. "She knows now." All eyes turned. Peter's face went pale, sweat shining under the stage lights. "Mom, please, let's talk outside." "Talk," I said, stepping forward. "You had me sedated and signed my home away like I was a name on a folder." Security guards began murmuring into radios. Mia captured the crowd's reaction. Every whisper, every phone raised. Peter stumbled backward as two uniformed county officers entered through the side door. One of them held a warrant folder. "Mr. Parker," he said, voice echoing, "you're under investigation for document forgery and financial fraud." Peter's eyes darted to me. You called them?" I met his gaze calmly. "No, the audit did." The ballroom erupted into chaos, phones flashing, murmurs spreading like wildfire. Peter's investors pushed back their chairs, half of them already whispering about lawsuits, the rest filming his humiliation for proof of betrayal. "Turn that off," he barked, lunging toward Mia. She didn't flinch. She just held her phone up, calmly recording his every move. "Smile, Uncle Peter. The internet loves a redemption arc." Security stepped between them. One of the county officers pulled Peter aside, reading his rights aloud while the other addressed me directly. "Mrs. Parker, we'll need a copy of that video and your affidavit for our report." I nodded. "Already printed and notarized, legally this time." Tom appeared at my shoulder, holding his briefcase like a badge of honor. "And I'm ready to testify about the forged seal." Peter spun on him. "You're ruining my career. You think anyone will believe a senile old woman and a washed-up notary over me?" Tom smiled thinly. "We don't have to believe. We have signatures, timestamps, and witnesses." The crowd parted as Peter's lawyer arrived, red-faced and sweating. "Mrs. Parker, let's be reasonable. Your son was under immense stress. Your health." "My health was fine until he drugged me for a signature." The room went dead silent. Even the officer paused. Mia handed the cop a second USB, backup footage from the hospital camera, showing Peter signing intake forms under my name while I was sedated. That was physical proof #2. Peter's voice cracked. "Mom, please, you're destroying me." I looked at him for a long moment. "No, Peter, you destroyed yourself when you decided my life was your retirement plan." He reached for me then, desperate, but the officers caught his arms before he could touch me. "Sir, you need to come with us," one said firmly. As they led him out, reporters who'd been covering the investor event began shouting questions. "Mrs. Parker, did you know your son was under investigation? Is it true he used forged documents?" I straightened my coat, turned toward the cameras, and said simply, "He used to think my signature was just a formality. Today it became his undoing." As the officers took Peter through the lobby, I noticed a figure waiting near the glass doors. Ashley, his wife. Her eyes were wet but calm. She turned to me and whispered, "He did the same thing to me." Then she held up a manila folder. "You might want to see what else he forged." Ashley's hands trembled as she passed me the folder. The edges were creased, the paper inside marked by faint fingerprints, the kind left when someone opens something too many times but never dares to act on it. Inside were bank statements, a life insurance claim, and a marriage trust document with my late husband's name typed neatly at the bottom, dated 2 years after his death. "Where did you get this?" I asked quietly. "From Peter's office," she whispered. "He said it was just insurance paperwork for the company, but then I saw your name on the beneficiary list. He took out a $400,000 policy using your identity and forged your signature on that, too. I gripped the folder tighter. So this isn't just about my house. Ashley shook her head. It's about every asset with your name on it. Her voice cracked. He told me he was consolidating for retirement. I believed him. I exhaled slowly. The humiliation, the betrayal, they'd expanded beyond bloodline now. I called over one of the officers who was logging evidence. Add this to the report, I said. It connects to the forgery case you already have. He flipped through the pages, eyes narrowing. Ma'am, this could elevate charges to financial exploitation of an elder and insurance fraud. This all changes everything. For the first time that day, Peter's confidence broke entirely. As the officer read him his revised charges, he turned to me, face blotched with panic. Mom, they'll put me in prison. I met his gaze. Then maybe you'll finally learn what confinement feels like, the kind you tried to sign me into. The crowd had thinned by then. Only a few reporters lingered, recording the aftermath. Tom came forward, resting a hand on my shoulder. This file, he said softly, nodding toward the folder Ashley brought. That's your physical proof #2. It closes every loophole. Mia joined us, closing her laptop. Grandma, it's done. Everything's backed up, time-stamped, and uploaded. Even if someone deletes it, it's already public. Ashley's tears fell silently. I just want to make things right. I didn't know who he'd become. I looked at her not unkindly. Then you start by telling the truth in court, every detail. As Peter was led past us, he stopped just long enough to mutter, "You think you've won, Mom? You ruined your own family." I turned away from him and said, clear enough for every microphone to catch, "No, Peter, I rebuilt it, without you." 2 weeks later, the courthouse smelled faintly of dust and lemon cleaner, the scent of old justice being reopened. The courtroom was small, intimate, lined with oak benches and tired flags. Peter sat at the defendant's table in a tailored suit that hung wrong now, too loose around the shoulders, too tight at the throat. His lawyer looked exhausted. Mine didn't have to say much. The evidence spoke louder than any argument could. Tom's affidavit, the hospital's surveillance stills, Ashley's insurance folder, the forged deed notarized by a stolen seal, and the video, time-stamped, clear as day. When my name was called, I walked to the stand, cane tapping lightly against the tile. The prosecutor asked the question slowly, respectfully. "Mrs. Parker, can you confirm the document in Exhibit C is your property deed?" "Yes." "Is this your signature?" I leaned forward. "No, that's my son's handwriting. I taught him cursive when he was 8. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Peter's eyes darted down. Ashley testified next. She detailed the insurance scam, the separate bank accounts, the threats he made once he knew the audit had flagged his transfers. When she finished, the room was silent except for the faint hum of the ceiling fan. Then the judge turned to me. "Mrs. Parker, is there anything you'd like to say before sentencing?" I stood slowly. "Yes, Your Honor. My son believed control was love. He thought erasing my name from paper would erase me from life. But I built my name one ledger, one signature, one promise at a time. You can't forge that." The judge nodded. "Well said." He turned his gaze to Peter. "Mr. Parker, this court finds you guilty on all counts: document forgery, elder exploitation, and financial fraud. You are sentenced to 12 years in state prison and restitution of $418,000. Peter didn't look up, not once. When the gavel struck, the sound was final, like a door closing on decades of silence. Outside, the sky was bright and merciless. Reporters waited on the steps, microphones extended. "Mrs. Parker, do you have a statement for the public?" I smiled faintly. "Only this: never underestimate a woman who keeps her receipts." Mia squeezed my arm. "That line's going viral." "Good," I said. "Maybe someone will hear it before it's too late." Mini cliffhanger. Resolution. As I walked toward the courthouse doors, the same doors Peter once escorted me through for his college graduation ceremony, I whispered to myself, "You forged my signature, but I rewrote my ending." If you've listened this far, thank you. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place? And don't forget to subscribe to Revenge Stories U60 USA, because stories like mine deserve to be heard.